Welcome back to our journey through wisdom. This is the day the Lord has made, and we rejoice in it. And we find ourselves in chapter 6 of the Proverbs, and chapter 6, 1 through 19, is sectioned into four different parts. It is this eighth address from father to son, these verses 1 through 19. We're going to take them in their four sections this week, and being able to these next four videos, they're short little sayings, but they have big ramifications on how you should walk in wisdom. So once again, this is really in that second concept of how you act wisely, or how you act in discipline. And the father to the son is being able to aim at certain things. Today is talking about how to walk with your neighbor, or frankly, how to walk in business, and being able to not get into debt with anyone, whether it be business wise, whether it be, frankly, personality wise or relationship wise, to not have a debt with anybody. The only debt that you should have is love. Towards that neighbor. And so if you get too far in of being able to see that it has ramifications, and you get trapped, and then you have to make decisions that aren't wise because you're doing it for the relationship of your neighbor, relationship of a business, rather than your relationship with the Lord. And so it really comes back to, once again, understanding and wisdom. And the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord, or the relationship with the Lord, knowing that you have salvation, and that drives and that gives you the path of being able to walk in that discipline of loving that person rather than owing that person anything. It comes from Romans chapter 13, and the son is hearing from the father that this is a wise saying, an apostolic mandate, as we get to see here. I want to read Romans 13:8 that sets us forth into Proverbs 6, 1 through 5. It says this: then the Son will conform to the apostolic mandate here. Owe nothing to anyone except to love each other. For he who loves another person has fulfilled the law. And so we get to see that evident in Proverbs chapter 6. Let's read together the first 5 verses. My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor, if you have struck hands in pledge for another, if you have been trapped by what you said, ensnared by the words of your mouth, then do this, my son, to free yourself. Since you have fallen into your neighbor's hands, go and humble yourself. Press your plea with your neighbor. Allow no sleep to your eyes, no slumber to your eyelids. Free yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, like a bird from the snare of the fowler. If you are in debt to anyone, relationship, business, go free yourself. How do you do that? Free yourself from the obligation that you have placed in between that relationship. Go humble yourself. Make it right. It might be the case that you have to actually take the hit, sacrifice. And that is wisdom speaking. That when you walk with somebody in a relationship, there is going to be sacrifice. So many times in this world, it's not necessarily the other person that's going to make the sacrifice. And so that's why it's humble ourselves. Come to this person and be able to be humble and sacrificial, because that is showing love. And that love has no law upon it. That love frees you, because that love comes from God. It is the gospel that God showed you in Jesus. And so once again, we get to see that Christological wisdom in that first proverb here, of being able to say, how do we free ourselves? You humble yourself. And just as Jesus humbled himself and became man and came down from heaven into our chaos and calamity, he humbled himself, sacrificed himself, so that we could say we have freedom. Freedom from the relationship that was a separation between God and man because of sin. But the freedom that we have in Jesus Christ doesn't obligate us to anything in our world. It just obligates us to be able to serve, honor, and glorify his name above all things. And so we get to see a great picture of how Christ has done that for us, and so that we can do that to our neighbor, into our jobs, into our relationships, in our daily lives. The wisdom here is that don't get into debt anybody. And if you do find yourself indebted to anybody, whether it be money, whether it be relationships, whether it be something in amongst housing or home or wife and children, if you are in debt to anybody, your neighbor or a stranger, this is how you do. Go humble yourself. And in that, you show the love of Jesus Christ. And so even in this kind of wisdom, even this kind of discipline, it is always a precursor to who are we? What are we doing? We are children of God, acting wisely, acting in discipline to showcase the love of Jesus Christ, which the law cannot hold, but the gospel proclaims freely. I pray that as you go into your day, that you are freed to no obligations, but this one obligation, to preach Christ crucified, Him risen, Him ascended, and Him with you always. God bless your day.